to have something because it's a big file. Okay, let's do the 3 Ohms and Sahanavata.
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति।
समस्त
जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव।
Is it on? Switch
Yeah,
it
it is
on.
on.
Okay. So we are doing the last sloka was 138. Let's chant that sloka. Chodyopi yati chodyam syat
Chodyopi yati chodyam syat
Tacchodyo chodyate maya
Tacchodyo chodyate maya
Pariharam tacchodyam
Pariharyam tatachodyam
Na punah pratichodyatam
Na punah pratichodyatam.
So he's playing the word chodyam. So in case you want to inquire into the nature of Maya, if you raise a question about the Maya, I'm going to raise about the question about your questioning itself. Because the more you question, the more it opens up, and there will not be any finality in understanding it, because the Maya is of that nature. So that's what essentially he said. And he's going to talk more about Maya, because he introduced Maya as while discussing the different aspects or different opinions about Ishvara, and ultimately the scripture says, who is Ishvara? It says, Mayanta Prakritim Vidyat, Mayananta Maheshwaram. That was a quotation from the scripture he quoted. That is, Maya is the Mayavi. Ishvara is the one who wields the Maya. So therefore, what is Maya has to be inquired, because he is the one who really controls and operates Maya. So Maya is Parameshwara Shakti. So that is, it is his power. And therefore, what exactly is Maya? Then we can understand Ishvara, because he is the one who is the wielder of Maya. So the discussion now shifted in terms of what is Maya. And Maya cannot be inquired upon because it is of the nature that it is anirvachaniyam. It is indescribable. But yet it is experience also. So therefore, you have, even though it's experience, you cannot inquire into it, because he says, how come? So if you ask any questions about Maya, we ask again questions and questions, and even your questioning will question, because the very question itself is part of Maya only, product of Maya only. The questionnaire himself is a product of Maya, and the question itself is within the Maya. Now you want to inquire about Maya using Maya. Essentially, the false is being investigated by using a false means. That's the whole problem. So the validity of the inquiry itself can be questioned. That's what he means. He used so many chodyams, ultimately that's what he implied. In case if you ask about Maya, you are asking about Maya. So what should I do if I want to know? He says the important is Maya is experience, therefore try to see how you can get over Maya. That is more important. So that's what being emphasized now. Vismayaika sariraya
Vismayaika sariraya
Mayaya chodya rupataha
Mayaya chodya rupataha
Anveshya pariharosya
Anveshya pariharosya
Buddhimadbhi prayatnataha
Buddhimadbhi prayatnataha
Vishmam and Ekam, that which is wonder, Vishma means is a wonder or inexplicable or inexplainable, and that which is alone, Ekam, Vishmayekam, that which is full of wonder, Sarirayam, what is wonder? Sarirayam, the whole upadhi that is using inquiry is Maya, of the nature of Maya itself. And Chodya Rupataha, it itself is wonder. The one who is asking itself is a wonder itself also. Because the one who is asking, the Sariraya means both the Sthula Sariram and the Sukshma Sariram. And all those Sariras themselves are questionable in that sense. And therefore, and Sarirayaha Mayayaha of the Maya, it is Chodya Rupataha, it is here. So that means it's a wonderful and existent wonderful thing. So Asyaha, so I miss Mayaha, that is of the Sat of Maya, Pariharaha, in order to get over Maya, Buddhi Madbihi Prayatnataha, so Anveshvaha, so that way Prayatnataha, Buddhi Madbihi, and with using the Buddhi you have to try, Prayatnataha is, you should try to discover what is the nature of Maya and how to get over Maya. So essentially, how to remove the Maya, you need Anveshya, if you have to approach in a different way, not trying to find out what it is, also how to get over it, because you will never find out what it is, because you will be always questioning it. So you have to understand the limitations of the inquiry of Maya itself. So that's why Maharshi says, any problem you have is because of Maya. We'll ask you, first inquire about the validity of the one who is having the suffering. That's what he means. So he said, what should I do? So let's see if you still want to know what is the Lakshanam of this Maya, if you want to inquire. Let's see what people say. That's what we want to say here. Maya tvameva nischayam
Maya tvameva nischayam
iti chetarhi nischanu
iti chetarhi nischanu
loka prasiddha mayaya lakshanam yatta dikshatam. So mayatvam, of the nature of Maya, evam nischayam, if you want to establish. So in case you want to establish the nature of Maya, that's what you are investigating. So in that case, though may be defined what is Maya. So let's look at how people define. Loka prasiddha mayaya yat lakshanam tat ikshatam. So that well-known, loka prasiddham, well-known. No wonder everything is on, but at least it may be recording a little bit. Sound speaking of something, but anyway, it is all Maya, part of Maya. So loka prasiddha mayaya. So yat lakshanam tat chichatam. What is how people have defined Maya? What do people think of Maya? So everything is Maya. Bhagavan ka Maya hai, right? Everything is expressed as whatever we don't understand is Maya. So that's what is being emphasized. Na nirupayitum sakhya, na nirupayitum sakhya, vispashtam bhasate chaya, vispashtam bhasate maya, sa mayetindrajaladau, sa mayetindrajaladau, loka sampratipedire, loka sampratipedire. So ya maya, that nirupayitum na sakhya. For a step, that Maya, we cannot really nirupanam, we cannot really define properly. Na sakhya means it's not possible to define this is Maya. Because it will change by the time you define it. So that is ever changing one. So cha vispushta, even though here cha is even though vispushta bhasate, at the same time it is clearly experienced. Even though we cannot define clearly what is Maya, but it is vispashtam. Spashtam is clearly, it is distinctly clearly, it can be experienced. Bhasate. Sa mayeti, that is Maya. That's what loka people, lokaha indrajaladau sampratipedire. So for loka, for all the worldly people, what they call it, it's called indrajalam. It is like a magic. Everything is like a magic suddenly appearing here because we do not know. Magic is we see it, but we don't know. If we know it, we will say we won't consider it any more magic. Because you see people being cut on the stage into two pieces and all, we all wonder. But if they really cut, you'll be arrested. So we know it is not cut. At the same time, we can't explain it. So that's why it's Indrajalam, magic show. They used to have magic shows at that time also. Who is a great musician? Some Indian was there, right? Sarkar, I don't know. People say he's a great. Okay, here is a very famous statement here. Spashtam bhati jagat sedam, spashtam bhati jagat sedam, asakyam tan nirupanam, asakyam tan nirupanam, maya mayam jagat tasmat, maya mayam jagat tasma, Ch6 pakshapatataha, Ch6 pakshapatataha. So idam jagat, this whole universe is spashtam bhati, it's very clearly experienced. Because we know everything else, it's crystal clear for us, clearly experienced. Tat nirupanam cha, if you want to describe however, so I want to understand what is the world. That's what all the scientific investigations are about the world only. So asakyam, it's not possible at all. Here is a declaration by Vijayarana, say you will never find out the absolute truth about the world. Tasmat, therefore, Jagat Maya Mayam. Therefore, the whole world is full with the Maya only. It's the effect of Maya. So, apakshapatataha, this is without any bias about any Vedanta or anything. It is the clear scientific statement. Ch6, this is to be seen and analyzed. Why? You will see, he is going to present it as some examples, because the more you inquire, the more it opens up. That's what is the science also. So the more you want to know why, the more you will know, you will open up so that you still want to know what is why, and so forth. Like a young teenager, a baby, ask why, keep asking why. Ultimately you have to say, no, I don't know. But he is already investigating Maya. Nirupayitum arabhye Nikhilairapi panditaihi Ajnanam puratastesham Bhati kakshasu kasuchit. So Nikhilaihi panditaihi api nirupayitum Arabde. Nikolai means all Pandit, all great scholars. Scholars, both the objective scientists as well as other scientists also. So all included, he means without any exception. Panditaihi api nirupaitam arabhya. If they start inquiring into establishing what is this Maya, Tesham Purataha, in front of them, that what they see, Kasuchit Kakshasu, after inquiring about some, by investigating as they go step by step, and they come to an end where Ajnanam Bhati, ignorance also remains. Ultimately, they will say, they have to say, we don't know. That's why we have keep on investigating, and the more questions will be asked about it, and more questions and more this one only. There will never be end of inquiry itself. That's why we are still trying to find out what's the fundamental particles, right, are made up of. So there will be no end. Only conclusion is we do not know is the final conclusion. Ajnanam bhati. Only ignorance shines in the end. So here he's going to give one example, but you can apply to any field of knowledge. But here trying to say, what is life? Let's inquire. If you want to know Maya, explain to me how life arises. And here he is giving a simple example of how a small sperm and egg is becoming into a dynamic individual, and what exactly life we do not know, and that's being addressed here. Dehendriyadayo bhava, Dehendriyadayo bhava, Viryenotpaditah katham, Viryenotpaditah katham, katham va tatra chaitanyam, katham va chatra chaitanyam, yukte ityukte Ityukte te ki muttaram. Ityukte ki muttaram. So, dehendriya adayaha bhavaha. So, deha indriya, deha, the gross body, and as well as the indriyas, as well as the sense organs, and adayaha, etc., mind, intellect, everything that you take about total bhavaha, about all those things, etc., all starting from where? Viryena, by the seeds. And katham utpadita, how is it possible for this gigantic small cell is becoming into such a big human being with all the indriyas and all that? All that information is saved in that matter, but even so-called genes and all that, you say, that is still matter only. And if you think that's the beginning, that is the end of it, so katham va Tatra chaitanyam utchukte. How can there be consciousness in that? So how is a matter become conscious entity or dynamic entity? What kind of answer you will give? So all you will see is just fall flat and admire the wonder of the life itself. And that is true for any life. If you go to my Facebook, somebody has put in a movie of how the sperm goes inside and whole complexities they have simulated. It really becomes wonder, how is this happened? And that's the mystery of life itself. So that's why you will realize that the presence of the Lord is everywhere. If you look at it, because everything is just a matter, carbohydrates, minerals and all that, but it's becoming so dynamic in the presence of something that is, we cannot know what it is. Even doctors cannot tell you what life is. All they can say is whether alive or not, or the expressions of the life, manifestations of the life, but what exactly is life, we don't know. So here is continuing that line of thinking. Viryasyaiva svabhavaschet, Viryasyaiva svabhavaschet, Katham tad viditam tvaya, Katham tad viditam tvaya, Anvaya vyatirekavyo, Anvaya vyatirekavyo, Anvaya vyatirekavyo, Anvaya Vyatireka yo Bhagnauto Vanjaviryataha Bhagnauto Vanjaviryataha. So Viryasya of the seed, Evam Svabhavam Chet, it is its nature, if you say. So this is one of the statements of our famous scientist also. God didn't create this world, its nature created it. So what do you mean? I means I don't know what it is. Statement is, because he says the same thing. Svabhavam is its nature. Tvaya, in case if is your answer, Kadambita, how do you know that? How do you know nature produced this? And what exactly is nature? That Anvaya Vyatireka, that logic of Anvaya, because it is there without it and is there not there without it, all you can tell about that. So that's called Anvaya Vyatireka. So Tau Vanjaviryataha, if that is true, so if that is the answer, but that is Bhagnau, it also will fail. Because there are cases where even though the seed has a power to germinate, if you impregnate some place else, it cannot produce. That's what he's going to tell us. So this is an example. He's illustrating that you cannot find out what exactly life is. And that's what is the essence of Schrodinger's cat problem also. I don't know if you know Schrödinger cat problem. So Schrodinger's experiment is to put a cat inside, it's the only thought experiment, put a cat inside the radiation chamber and irradiate it and tell whether it's alive or dead. So you solve equations and the solution is always probability that it is dead or alive is 50%. So how do you know? It cannot be 50% alive or 50% dead. So you have to open the chamber, then you know whether it is dead or alive. One way or the other, not half and 50-50. But for that, a conscious entity has to come into picture. So what he says is, without the presence of conscious entity, the existence and the life itself cannot be even established. And that's what he's asking here. And another guy by name Wagner says, oh, then there's no problem. We put conscious entity also inside the room. So we put a cat in the radiation chamber and consciousness entity outside the chamber and enclose all of them together, and now you stand apart and solve the whole problem. So the problem will come out that the conscious entity knows what is happening there. But you won't know. For you to know, you have to again come into picture. So the inquirer, conscious entity, has to come into picture to inquire what is happening there. And without the conscious entity present, that's what the scripture says, existent entity itself cannot be established. So essentially, if you ask how can that be, how do you know? Here is simple and most intelligent answer is Najana mikimapyetadu mikimapyetadu Ichyante saranam tava Ichyante saranam tava Atayeva mahantosya Pravadanti indrajalatam. So etad kimapi najami, how is this is Kim Nadam, I do not know. Ante, in the end, Tava Sharanam. That's the only refuge for you, is to admit that I do not know. That is the intelligent answer that one can give. And Ataha, therefore, Eva alone, Mahantaha Asya Indrajaladam Pravadanti. Mahanta means great people or the wise people. Asya, about Mayasya. So Indrajalam, it's like a magic show. It is the nature of the magical creation. That means it's beyond logic itself. Because what is logic is, as you know, that is called the Anumana Pramana. So Anumana Pramana depends upon the validity of observations. For logic to establish it is true, you have to have an experimental fact. Then only logic is stand. You cannot have logically be induced by another logic. That's called axiomatic systems. Axiomatic means you start with some assumptions and then prove everything else. There is a famous Gödel's theorem. I don't know how many people know. This is from the great, even Einstein praised him. He was one of the great scientists called Gödel. If you go to Google's, you will know Gödel's incompleteness theorem. It says any axiomatic system that based on axiom will itself be incomplete. You will never get the end answer. So therefore, any system that is developed on the basis of axiom. So how do you know what is the truth then? Because everything starts with some assumptions. That's why Vedanta is only truth ultimately. We will see here. So here he says surrender to the wisdom that if we cannot understand this Maya by inquiring, using the tools that are available for Maya. So with all that wonder, oh, we missed one sloka, right? Did we miss some sloka?
No.
Huh?
No, we have not missed anything.
We didn't miss?
No.
What about the tree? We didn't tell about tree. Maybe you'll come back again. Oh, next sloka, yeah, okay. So he was the wonder of all wonders. I think Vidyaranya got carried away with the wonder. Then he changed the meter now. Changed the meter to express the wonder itself. So this is what Shardula Vikriditam, like a tiger goes. So you have to be. This is how the Vishwam Darpana Drusyamana Nagari Dulyam Nijantargatam. That's why you have to stop there.
Yeah, it Pashan Atmani, my.
Then you can start. So here it's actually same, but we'll try to speed it here. Etasmat kimindrajalam aparam. Kimivendrajalam aparam yadgarbhavasastitam retascetati hastamastapada prodbhuta nanankuram paryayena sisutva Vaishairanekairvrutam pasyatyati Srunoti jigrati tada gacchatyaya gacchati. Okay. Etasmat kim indrajalam aparam yat garbhavasastitam. So what etasmat, what is that other than the magic, a creative ability? So etasmat, whatever can be that this is a magical creation, and that which is seeded in the uterus, garbhavasasthitam. Something is seeded, but suddenly whole from single cell, everything is stored in that information, a wonder of all wonders, and how that expresses itself into varieties, and what controls that operation. After all, it is one, but who is controlling to make sure this is this way, that is that way, and you see all the hereditary factors all there, stored in that simple cell, in the genetic codes. So, etasmat kim indrajalam aparam yad garbhavasastidam retascetati. So that seed indeed becomes a conscious chetati, that becomes a conscious entity, and enlivening entity, whole life itself is there. And hasta mastaka pada prodbhuta nanankuram. So hasta, hands, mastaka, heads, pada, legs, and prodbhuta nanankuram, and goes into many limbs and all. So outside limbs, inside everything else, varieties of whole thing is being developed. Paryayena, then afterwards, Sishutva yavvana jara veshaihi anaikaihi vrutam. Sishutvam, the childhood, yavvanam, adolescence, jara, old age, and veshaihi, like that various stages of different modifications, anaikaihi vrutam. Pasyati, atti, srunoti, jigrati, tata, gacchati, agacchati. So he sees, eats, hears, smells, similarly goes, comes and all. where it is all activities or dynamic activities are being done. What a wonder. So how far we have to go to see the Lord, because this is a Maya, and Mayavi is the wielder who is the controller of the whole thing. So I'm able to, that's why I say, Ramana Maharshi says, this is God. Can you see God? He was falling. So how can this simple matter can do this? That's a big. So even I can talk, I can hear, I can see. That itself is a wonder. So you don't have to go temple to see the Lord. Sit in the right place and see manifestation of the Lord Himself. Okay, you can go to temple also. Not that you shouldn't go, but where He is not, that's what is it. Someone teenager asked me one long time ago, if God is everywhere, why do we need a temple? If you can see God is everywhere, you will see temple everywhere. I think in the North Carolina, a kid was asking, why don't we pray sofa? He says, yeah, you can pray sofa, but next time don't sit on it. It's God also. So, here it comes. So not only the human life, he is talking about seeing application to a tree here. Dehavadvata dhanadau Dehavadvata dhanadau Suvicharya vilokyatam Kvadhana kutrava rukshaha Kvadhana kutrava rukshaha Tasman mayeti nischanum Dehavat, like our body, Vatadana thou, the dana, the seeds of Vatavruksha. Vatavruksha is a big banyan tree, and that seed of that is so small. So this example comes in the Chandogya also, in the Sadvijja. So Suvicharya vilokyatam. If you inquire properly, you want to say what is the contents of this seed, and you open it. So in the Chandogya, you say, the teacher asks you, cut it. So, yeah, cut it. What do you see? He says, I don't see anything here. But what you don't see, everything is there. Whole tree is there in a subtle form. So, Suvicharya vilokyatam. So, proper inquiry, you may see that Kvadhana and Kvavruksha, where is the seed and where is the tree? Such a big, gigantic tree, and where is the small seed? But that is the wonder. That is the creative power. That is the Maya. Iti tat mayeti nischano. Know that that is certainly due to the Maya only. And that has to be understood by looking at the life around. So if you see any beauty manifestation, everything is nothing but beautiful manifestation of the wonder of creation itself. So starting from a simple flower, or an insect crawling on the door, everything reminds of that, the beauty of that creation itself. Niruktavabhimanam ye dadate tarkikadayaha harshamishradhi bistetu, right?
Bistetu,
yeah. Harshamishradhi bistetu khandanadau susichitaha. So, ye tarkikadayaha, those logicians want to inquire using logic. Niruktam. Niruktam is the explanation, or nirukti is also the epistemological issue, etymological aspects of it, where trying to inquire what exactly the source of it, of explanation for the word creation. Abhimanam dadate. So they seems to be, they claim themselves to be experts on all these things. This is Nyayas and the Navya Nyayas as well. So they have developed a systematic logic, and sometimes mind-boggling logic also. So for What was the? It's not coming there. Okay, te tu, even they also, for him, Harsha Mishra Adi Bihi. Harsha Mishra is the author of Khandana. What is the name of that? Khandana Khanda Khadyam. Khandana Khanda Khadyam is a logical using Navya Nyaya, criticizing Nyaya. So he uses their own techniques to say how foolish you are, because you cannot really find out the end of it with the logic. So that is called Khandana Khanda Khadyam. And Harsha Mishra Adi, etc., all the people starting from Harsha Mishra. And another one is the Advaita Siddhi. Advaita Siddhi is Madhusudan Saraswati, because he was responding to the criticism of the Dvaitins, which are essentially the Narayaniyam, I think. Not Narayaniyam. Nyayamrutam. Nyayamrutam is written by the Dvaitins criticizing Advaita Vedanta, and all using Navya Nyaya. But it is the Madhusudan Saraswati that really wrote in Advaita Siddhi. If you read it after first page, you will get sleep immediately. Every argument will have, says this, if that is says, then it has it can have three answers. Like that, everything becomes analytical. And this answer cannot be, that answer cannot be for this reason, that third cannot be, so therefore your answer is wrong. So everything becomes an analytical process. So they criticize the Mithyatma aspect of the Advaita. That. Okay, anyway, I don't want to get into that. So, Khandana Adav, Sunishchitaha are well versed in that Harsha Mishra Adibihi. So, those wise people have in fact reputed the logic of the logicians, and therefore you cannot apply the logic to find out the answer. That's what he's trying to emphasize. Achintya khalu ye bhava, achintya khalu ye bhava, natam starkeshu yojayet, natam starkeshu yojayet, achintya rachana rupam, achintya rachana rupam, manasapi jagat khalu, manasapi jagat khalu. So ye bhavaha, all these things are, all these aspects, Kalu, indeed, achintya, you cannot really think about it, you cannot really analyze of all these aspects that I have mentioned here, how life comes, how Chaitanya enters into the matter, whether it's a matter or mind is a matter, all those things are not really analyzable using the tools logic. Logic again depends on the pratyaksha pramana, therefore again observations, again you are using the inert things as a basis. So, achintyaha tan tarkeshuna yojayet. This, therefore, for these things, tarkeshu, the logic cannot be applied. To understand the ultimate truth, jagat khalu, indeed, manasapi, by the mind also, achintya rachana rupam, is beyond the analysis of the mind itself. Because the mind itself can only inquire about the objective things only, using the sense organs. Sense organs can only sense the objective properties. So therefore, you cannot apply this in order to inquire what is Maya using logic or even the mind also. So what is Maya? So that's how we define here. Achintya rachana shakti, achintya rachana shakti, bijam mayeti nischanu, bijam mayeti nischanu, maya bijam tadevaikam, maya bijam tadevaikam, sushupta vanubhuyate, sushupta vanubhuyate. Achintya rachana shakti. So it is a Shakti, it is a power, and Rachana Shakti, that which is creative power, Achintyam, that which cannot be thought of, that which cannot be measured or which cannot be understood by the mind. And it is Bijam Maya iti Nischano. Know that it is Bijam, the very source for the whole unimaginable creation that we see. So, is the world creation, is your creation, is Jiva creation? How do you inquire? You cannot inquire by logical analysis or by objective analysis. It is Achintyam, and it is a powerful, very creative power, that which is the very source. Bijam is the very source for everything else. It is Ekam, one, Tat Eva, that alone is Maya Bijam, Maya Sushupte Anubhuyate, that alone, that which is Maya Bijam, the seed of that Maya, you can in fact experience in the deep sleep state. So what do I experience in the deep sleep state? I say, what did you do in the deep sleep state? I don't know.
Nothing.
So that is the Bijam for Maya, because I don't know, is the very source for Maya itself, because ignorance itself is the very source for the Maya. Bijam is Bijasyantari Vanguro Jagadidam Pragnilvikalpam Punaha. Yeah. So it is Bija Syant Ankuraha, it is the very Ankuram, is the very seed, is the very the sprout for the whole universal creation, and which is of the nature of that which is inexpressible. Pragnirvikalpam. That's what a Pragnirvikalpam is, that which was not there before in an unmanifested form before is becoming a manifested. And that Shakti that makes it manifested from unmanifested is also due to Maya expression. So that's why I was talking about how in the Nyaya. So so object is defined by the Nyaya is Praga Abhava Pratiyogitam. That's how one object is defined. Praga Abhava Pratiyoginam. Praga Abhava Pratiyoginam. That which was Prag Abhava means before it was not there. Prag Abhava, and now it is there. Therefore, object is counter to its previous non-existence. This is Nyaya definition. But Gaudapada is Adau Antecha Nasti Vatvanepi Tattadha. What was not there before and what was not there again is not there even now also. That is his statement comes. So Bijasyantari Vankuro Jagadidam, that's Shankara's statement. Yes, Dakshinamurti. Maybe it's time for me to take Dakshinamurti again. I did a long time. I did actually for that was they forgot to record it at that time. Oh, the first sloka itself it took a long analysis. Okay, anyway. Jagrat Swapna Jagat Tatra Jagrat Swapna Jagat Tatra Leenam Bija Iva Dhrumaha Bham Bija Iva Dhrumaha Tasmat Asesha Jagato Tasmat Asesha Jagato Vasanas Tatra Samstita Vasanas Tatra Samstita. So here, when you go to that deep sleep state, what was there, he said, is a bijam, is the seed. So if you go to Mandukya Upanishad, this is analyzed in the third state of consciousness, in the deep sleep state, where we took that also in the Memorial Day camps. So CDs are available. So that which is in the deep sleep state from the point of Jiva, it's called Layam. From the point of Ishvara, it's called Pralayam. So both the micro and the macro are aspects of each state are analyzed for each state in the Upanishad, in the Mandukya. So therefore, when he talks about the creation as a seed, so local mind becomes a seed for the creation of the individual creation, and the global mind becomes a seed for the creation of the totality. So Jagrat Swapna Jagat Tatra Leenam Bija Iva Dhramaha. That's one way of looking at it, is both Leenam, Layam and Pralayam are occurring from the point of the Jiva, because when he goes into ignorance or deep sleep state, there is no world also. No world, no Ishvara, everything is disappeared. So from this point, it's also like a Pralayam. Even though even he gets up, it's a lion, but even the whole world is disappeared into him. So Prapancho Pashamam Shantam Shivam Advaitam Chaturtam Manjat in the Turiyam, it says all the worlds are dissolved into it, into that state. And that's what is called here Jagrat Swapna Jagastatra Leenam. Another way of looking at it is there is only one subject and everything else is an object for me. From each reference point, for me everything is, the world is object and everything is inert. When I go to deep sleep state, along with me, everybody goes as the objects as in the avyakta state, in the unmanifested state. So that way, when I get up, everything else is projected again. So from the individual also, this can be understood. So Jagrat, Swapna, Jagat, Tatra Leenam. Tatra means in the deep sleep state, Leenam, Bija Iva, as though like a seed, and it is Dhrom. That is that which is indeed like the seed. Tasmat Asesha Jagato Vasanahastatra Samstitaha. So the whole world, Asesha Jagata, the total world, therefore, Vasana in the form of seed form or in the Vasana state also, Tatra Samstitaha. There it is in the deep sleep state, it is contained in that. So the whole world exists in the unmanifest seed form, and that is Maya. So Maya itself is at the local level expressing as Nidra Shakti. So Nidra Shakti also has two powers. One is Avarana and Vikshepa. Avarana is covering of what? Covering, I am sleeping in a very comfortable AC room. That fact is covered. And now when I project myself in the dream state, the Vikshepa also is there. But both are gone into a Leenam, into a unmanifested state in the deep sleep state, which again comes back again. I'm not looking at the watch. Oh, still time. Ya buddhi vasanastasu, ya buddhi vasanastasu, chaitanyam bimbati, chaitanyam bimbati, megha kasavad spashta, megha kasavad spashta, megha kasavad spashta, Megakashavadaspashta Chidabhaso numiyatam Chidabhaso numiyatam. So Megakashavada spashta is spashta there rather than. Okay, anyway. Ya buddhi vasanaha. Ya, those buddhi vasanaha, those unmanifested vasanas or impressions in the intellect. That's called buddhi vasanas. Tasu in the form of Chaitanyam Pratibimbita. And tasu in them the Chaitanyam, the consciousness is Pratibimbita, is reflected also. Megha Akasavatu Aspashtam, like the cloud, Megha Akas, like the space in the clouds. Aspashtam, it's not non-distinct, not clear, not differentiable. Chidabhasa anumiyatam. It is anumiyatam. It has to be inferred that there is a chidabha. It is like a reflected consciousness, but it's aspashtam, which is undifferentiated consciousness entity. So chidabhasa Meghakasavat aspashtaha anumiyatam. That's what. So this consciousness, like Meghakasha, like this total space being reflected in the tushara, in the drops of the clouds, and it is not clear, but it has to be inferred. Anumiyatam. So here is reminding us the whole chapter how we started. We are talking about the Ghatakasha, Jalakasha, Meghakasha and Brahman. So these four aspects are being brought. Now he is reminding us, this is how we are starting. Don't forget this, the basics that we started. So even in the deep sleep state, there is a Chidabhasa in Aspashtam. It is in the potential form reflected in that. So, as I mentioned last time, that who slept very well, the article is there in those who want to know in my website. Okay, let's go to 154. Sabhasameva tad bijam, sabhasameva tad bijam, dhirupena prarohati, dhirupena prarohati, ato buddhau chidabhasau, ato buddhau chidabhasau, vispashta pratibhasate, vispashta pratibhasate. So here, when I am in the deep sleep state, there is a buddhi in a folded form, and in the folded form also reflected consciousness, but in unmanifested form also, inexpressible, undifferentiable, but it is there. But all will come out as the buddhi unfolds, the reflection also becomes evident also. That's what he is saying here. Sa bhasameva, sa bhasa, sa abhasameva. That reflected consciousness with all those latent things in the intellect. That bijam, along with the source of that which came out. Bijam means it is in unmanifested form. Dhi rupena, in the form of the intellect, it is going to express out. Prarohati. So it grows as I wake up. First the intellect gets up, then the mind, everything else starts getting up, and says, grows in the waking and the dream state also. Ataha, from this, buddhau chidabhasaha vispashta pratibhasate. So from this, in the intellect buddhau, chidabhasaha vispashta pratibhasate. Even the chidabhasa, that I am conscious of, everything else also now, not only myself, and everything else also becomes vispashtam, very crystal clear, both in the dream state and in the waking state also. So it is there in the potential form. Even Chidabhasa is also in the potential form, since the intellect that is reflecting is also in the potential form in the deep sleep state. That's why we say, I don't know. But I cannot say I don't know in the deep sleep state, because Chidabhasa is not there to say, or the mind to express is not also not there. If I can express, that means I am not sleeping. So it is. Okay, 155. Maya bhasena jivasau, Maya bhasena jivasau, karoti tisrute srutam, karoti tisrutau srutam, megha kasa jala kashau, megha kasa jala kashau, yuvatau suvyavastitau, yuvatau. Is there something wrong? Everybody hesitating. I'm splitting it a little bit. Okay. 155. Maya bhasena jivasau, karoti iti srutau srutam, megha akasa jala akashau. Here you have to split the kasha. So you have to split it as kashau. Yivatau, so vyavastitau. Okay. So Maya bhasena, Maya Maya abhasena. So that which is because of through Maya, reflection of the through Maya. So here Jiva and Ishvara, Jivesha is Jiva and Ishvara, Dvandva Samasam. Karoti creates, iti das. Sruta in the scriptures, Srutam, we have heard from the scriptures that from Maya, from the through Maya, reflection of the Maya, both Ishvara and Jiva are created. So how creation of the Ishvara also comes into picture. Meghakasha, Jalakasha, idite, Jiva Ishvara suvyastitao. So this Meghakasha and Jalakasha, reflection of the Jalakasha is in the part of Jala, the whole space is seen, that is Jalakasha. And Kutastha is the Chaitanyam, consciousness. And Meghakasha and Brahman, where the Brahman is getting reflected in the clouds through the water in the clouds. So these two analogies is that is being emphasized. So that is Ishvara. So Jiva and Ishvara have been defined, and this is how Karoti iti Srutau Srute. This is for that you cannot logically establish this, you cannot perceptually see this, but only source for the information for this knowledge is only Srutau. From the Sruti only we have to learn by Srutam. Srutam is you have to hear. You have to hear this from the scripture. That means you have to hear from it each other, obviously implied. Meghavad vartate maya. Meghavad vartate maya. Meghastita tusharavat. Meghastita tusharavat. Dhivasanaschida bhasaha. Jivasanaschida bhasaha. Tusharasta kavat stitaha. Tusharavat kavat stitaha. Ka is this space. So Meghavat, like a megha, like a clouds in space. Maya vartate. This Maya exists also, like a space in the clouds, in the cloud space. That means total space, as though reflection is occurring. Therefore, reflection, the process of reflection is like the clouds, in the clouds, reflection. That's what is called the Meghakasha. Meghastita tusharavatu. So Tusharam is the strong droplets in the Meghastitam, in the clouds. So we are assuming that there are small droplets, and in the droplets there is a reflection of the total space, just as in the pot space there is a water, and in the water there is a reflection of the space also. So Dhi Vasanaha, Dhihi Vasana, the impressions of the Dhi, or the impressions of the intellect. Tusharasta Kavatu Chidabhasa Stitha. Tusharasta Kavat. So in the reflected space in the water, Kavatu, like a space getting reflected, it is unmanifested form, it is still there in that form. Space in the water droplets in the clouds, like reflected space in the water. So this is some analogy of the total and the local. Chidabhasa Stitaha. Reflected consciousness exists. So Ishvara is nothing but reflection of the totality in the Maya. That's what it is. And Jiva is nothing but reflection of the same totality, which you call it a Kutastham, in the local equipment. So total versus global, macro versus micro has been. So here we stop here, 3:32, and we'll come back and start maybe 5 minutes to 11. So Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So Pancadasi 6 from 139 to 150.